Morning, everybody. We are attempting to do Paulette patchwork quilt number 5. So here we go. Paulette, take it away.
Okay, so today we have a nice little simple heart project, and so you can dig in your stash and find some colors that'll go together. What I did in this particular one was I found a lighter and a darker color, the same color, just one a little bit brighter than the other, and whatever you have. So every color, I don't worry about what's on the design, I just want to see how light and dark it is. So I've tried to match up all kinds of different colors here. And for this project, we are actually going to be using some background. So you might not have in your stash what you need here, and I believe it's 2 meters that you need for all of the background of this quilt. And I have something with few little dots on it, but the hearts are nice and bright, so they show up really nice. So really simple, you just need 2 colors. You need a 2.5 by 3.5 inch piece and a 3.5 by 5.5 inch piece. Background for each little block, 2.5 inch square and 2 1 3/4 inch squares. So that's to make one block. So what we're going to do here is sew the background piece to our small color, and then we're going to add that to it, and there's your little heart. If I turn it that way, there's your little heart.
Oh, then cute.
Yeah. Then you're going to use the smaller pieces that you have and sew a diagonal down there, and you will end up with a heart with little soft edges on it. And I think I have one finished here. I do have one finished here. So you can see the diagonals there. I use dark thread so you can see it. You're going to iron that over, and I always trim in behind, and there's your finished heart.
Oh, very cool.
So in this quilt, we're actually alternating these blocks that are on point with a square, alternating square in between each block. So these are cut 5.5 inches square.
So ergo, your heart blocks will also have to finish at 5.5 inch square.
Yes.
Yes.
We
Okay.
cut this one 5.5, so it should still be 5.5 by 5.5.
Now, are you sewing with a 1/4 inch seam or a scant 1/4 inch? And why would you want to sew with a scant?
I sew with maybe a bit of a scant. I don't know. I don't have a really good foot on my machine that gives me I can't adjust the needle, so I have to kind of gauge it by the presser foot. These ones, of course, you're drawing a diagonal and you're sewing from point to point, so that's accurate. And as long as you have this tucked way over into the corner and you press this well, it should still come out at 5.5.
Okay, so another one of my Heather questions.
Yes.
What color of thread do you use? I mean, you've got every color that you know is on God's green earth here.
Okay.
So do you sew with a white because there's a light background? Let's take a look at the back of your quilt, guys.
Yeah, this one does have a white. You can see how tiny my stitches are too.
Oh, she's got red on the outside here. Like, see, she's done red.
But see, that matches my border. But you know what? In a lot of my scrappy quilts, I use whatever thread I have, because scrappy front, scrappy thread. I'm using up my thread. If my tension is good, then it really doesn't matter what color your thread is. It's going to be embedded in that seam. So so I am open to all kinds of colors.
Okay, and you use a 50 weight?
I use 50 weight, yes.
Yes. And what is your favorite brand of thread?
I would say Orifil's probably my favorite. But because I'm using up what I have, I'm using all kinds of things. You know that I've collected over the years.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm getting a good tension, I'm okay with that. I do try to have the same top and bottom.
Yeah.
Like the same threads, but not always if I'm using up a bobbin that was unfinished from before.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this quilt, we're going to sew again in diagonal rows. So you've got setting triangles here on the outside edges, and then you have a block, your alternate background piece, another block, background piece. So you're doing it in diagonal rows like that.
Okay.
And the setting triangles, you're cutting an 8.5-inch square, and you're cutting it twice here on the diagonal. And these are the pieces that fit in all these setting triangles on the outside edges.
Okay.
Now, in the instructions, I do show how to trim it so that, you know, it turns out the same as mine. But it's you know, once you get going, it's your own project. And I'm suggesting that at the top of the quilt you trim it 1 inch from the top of the hearts. I think it just gives a little space for the heart without touching the border.
Right.
On these outside edges, I've cut it 3/4 of an inch from this edge. So here you're only seeing 1/2 inch because we have a 1/4 inch seam allowance in here.
Right.
But you're going to trim it 3/4 of an inch. And on the bottom, I actually trimmed it just 1/4 of an inch from those points. So these hearts are sitting on the border. My border is cut 4 inches, and you need 1 meter to do the quilt, and that includes the binding.
Okay, so when you cut your border pieces, you're joining them to make them long enough or whatever.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so
They'll
when you
be
do
somewhere.
that, Paulette,
Yes.
I join all of my pieces into one long piece, and then I cut them into whatever sizes I need. Do you work at one side at a time, or do you make it all into one long piece?
I work on one side at a time. So I always, well, probably 99% of the time, I sew the sides on first, and then I do the top and the bottom. So you can see that's what I've done here. So there's a seam here, and there actually might be another seam somewhere else.
Okay.
So actually, you know, I often do what you do as well.
Yeah.
Make the one long piece because I know how many inches I need.
And I do my sides first, and then my top and my bottom.
Press that, you know, trim this nice and even, then you can add that on there.
Yeah, that's how I do mine too.
For sure.
I'm a Paulette wannabe. There you go.
So the little corner, very corners, because you haven't got a row of blocks here, this is a 4-inch square, and it's only cut once on the diagonal. So you need 2 of those 4-inch squares for the 4 corners to end it up. So I do have another quilt, and I will show you. It's the same pattern, and we did put these blocks on point so that the hearts are kind of standing up. Oh, I really put this in well, didn't I? Okay, there we go. And so this is the other quilt. This is all going to be on the video, right?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Okay, just so you get an idea.
Ooh, look at this.
If you...
oh, my goodness, that's gorgeous, Paulette.
Now, these blocks are not on point. They're actually the square of the heart that we made. So you don't have any setting triangles, no corner triangles, no diagonal rows to sew or anything. And I kind of left a little bit of space in the center because I thought it was kind of a cool design.
I like that.
It's
I like
the
that
same
very much.
block. It's, you know, something dark and something a little bit lighter, dark, something a little bit lighter. And so this one, if people want, I can also give them, you can see there's a big square in here.
Yeah.
So that's like a 15.5-inch square because these end up being 5 inches finished inside the quilt. So, and then you've got larger pieces here as well.
Right.
And then it has a little bit of a border around the outside edges.
Okay.
So this is just a little heart.
There you go. Just a little heart. Way to go. Love the name. Love the quilts. and love your little classes, Paulette. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see
Yep.
you in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.